Hey guys, this is Hamon and welcome back to Bytesize. And normally I would probably say the rest of that, but this isn't a normal video. Rather, this is a countdown video. I will be taking notes from Zero Punctuation on The Escapist, and not just reviewing the top 5 best games I've played, I'll also be reviewing the top 5 games that were the worst, and then the top 5 games that were a little eh. And with that said, we would normally begin, but I'm going to say this. Most of the views I get on this channel are probably from the unsubscribed, so I will be saying, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. It's free to do, and you can always unsubscribe when you're not interested. In any case, let's begin. Okay, so at number 5, technically I'm reviewing 2 games, because the thing is, I know what you're probably gonna be asking me right now, why am I doing 2 games? The thing is, they are both mechanically and objectively the same thing. And that is to say, I am reviewing Among Us and Goose Goose Duck. You wanna know why? Let me tell you the premise of each one. In Among Us, you are a crewmate on a ship / planet / airbase or something, trying to do your task. There's an imposter on board. The imposter is trying to kill everyone. So, along with your task, you're trying to figure out who the imposter is so that you can yeet them out of the base. In Goose Goose Duck, you're a bunch of geese who are trying to do their task. There's a duck among you, and you have to figure out, along with doing your task, you have to figure out who the duck is so that you can yeet them out of the base. You see where this is going? They are essentially the same game. The only difference is, Goose Goose Duck actually had roles and in-game currency before Among Us did, which is funny. And also cringy now, because Among Us only recently added roles and currency, so that says a lot. But I can't really knock them for it, because obviously they wanted to have people enjoy the game first before doing that, and you could buy the cosmetic stuff for actual money at the time. I get at this point they want to give people a chance to actually earn the stuff rather than having to pay a lot. Because some of that stuff was like $5, I think. Anyway, they're both good games, I enjoyed them, but what really speaks about it is the fact that there is actually an Among Us map on VR chat that somebody recreated so that people can play Among Us on it. So that says a lot in terms of the influence Among Us has had on the gaming industry, rather. Well, not a big impact, but still, it's why it's number 5 anyway.
Bruh.
Now in 5th place for the meh section is a game that, while was interesting to look at, it was, in fact, as I played it, something that didn't grab my attention for long. And that is Yes, Your Grace. Which is kind of sad because I made a really nice thumbnail for it. So, the premise of the game is that you're a king trying to make decisions for his kingdom that will show what happens in the future, because each decision you make can have consequences. And so, yeah. If you played games such as Reign, or Her Reign, or Game of Thrones Reign, or basically any other game that has a similar premise, in a sense, you've played this game. The only difference is that this one has a nice art style for being pixelated, and that's it, honestly. Everything else is similar to those other games. So that's why it gives me the meh reaction. And that's why I only played it like 1 or 2 times afterwards. Actually, I don't even think afterwards. I just played it a couple times and then made the review. So that's how much of attention it gave me. Now, the number 5 worst game, I can't argue that I really could have gone with anything else. It's just that I needed something to fill in the space, and this was a demo, but that's also a kind of a punch at myself because it's like I couldn't get the actual game, so I just decided to review the demo. So, yeah. Anyway, the 5th worst game is Ship Graveyard Simulator. If you played any other simulation game, it is essentially the same thing. You do a job, you earn money to buy equipment to do the job better, and the cycle keeps going. You get objectives to do while in terms of doing the job, and it just gets to a point where there's no real reason to keep doing the job. Now, obviously, you can argue that there are other games that make fun of this whole thing, like, say, Goat Simulator or Deer Simulator. And yeah, you're right. Those are parodies in a sense, because it's kind of funny that it's like they have the same name, but they are doing so much more than just being a freaking deer or a goat. In any case, I had to just fill in this spot, and honestly, if the game was available to buy, I probably would have considered it, or probably wouldn't even have considered it. That's the thing. Depending on the price, I probably wouldn't have even bought it. So the fact that this is on here is kind of a testament to the fact that I probably would never have even gotten it if it was not a demo. At number 4, we have Going Under, a cute roguelike dungeon crawler game where you play as an intern of a company and try to explore the dungeons beneath your company in order to figure out what on earth you can do to help your company rise from the ranks. I enjoyed this game because of the cute aesthetic and very interesting design. I mean, technically those are the same thing, so you know what? It's fine. But yeah, no, seriously, it's a very cute look. I love the whole office type of thing, and the dungeons are very unique considering they're each a different aspect of business and such at this point. So yeah, I really can't say that there's any massive flaws in it, but I enjoyed it very much the same, and definitely would say if you want to check it out, you can go ahead and do so, because it's fun. It's a nice little game and very cutesy and all that. Although there is one level where it's very interesting.
Bruh.
Now, number 4, I'm being a little lenient on in the meh category, because while it is a good game, for me it didn't really catch a lot of attention because it borrowed a lot from other games. Not in the sense that you would think of, but, it's just, I've seen so many games do this before, so that, to the point that one of the aspects was strikingly similar. And that is to say, this game is Dragon Quest Builders 2. Now, I like the fact that it was taking the survival thing, giving it a story and all that, but other games have done that as well. And it's, it's open world exploration, that kind of thing. You collect materials, that kind of stuff. I don't mind that. Like, if it was just, doing it in the world of Dragon Quest, that's fine. The problem really shone, I guess, when you mined dirt for the first time. Or you even looked at the world. It's cubical. The world itself is cubical, and that just was like, oh my gosh, they are the same shape as another certain game. I know you can't really do a copyright on the shape, but at the same time, I'm like, why are you mimicking? Other than that, it's a fine game, but it just didn't really grab me as much. So we're moving on. Okay, I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this one, but especially from someone, but number 4 in the worst category is River City Girls. Now, you're probably asking me why. It's because, for one particular reason, is that when a game makes me legit rage as I'm trying to play it, it's not good for you. Because I'm not one to really want to be angered because I keep failing at a certain thing. Like, I don't mind if it's a little difficult. and I try to learn from it. That's the point of these kind of things. But when you make it to a point that you are basically forcing me to do a thing in a certain way because that's how they do it, it's like, yeah, I am very ticked off. And if you don't know by now, it's the part where you are doing the Rockstar fight. And yeah, that thing has been very bad. Like, literally, I have not picked up the game since and don't plan to because I did not want to ever do it again. I mean, recently I've heard that there's River City Girls 2 coming out, but like, I might pick it up just to see if it's improved on the gameplay and all that, but otherwise, I think my opinion will stay the same for River City Girls 1. So, yeah. Coming at number 3 for the best games is Psychonauts 2. A game that when it was announced, I really looked forward to this because I played Psychonauts 1 and enjoyed the hell out of it. And this one was no different. Sure, I didn't get any major laughs, but I enjoyed it regardless, and I love continuing the story of becoming a full-fledged Psychonaut. And it was interesting. Okay, now granted, I did spoil the ending a bit for myself, finding out what happens, but going through it, it didn't matter. I actually enjoyed the whole thing. And I especially enjoyed Jack Black's appearance, cameo voice in the game as one of the main people you have to explore, and it was fun. I enjoyed the music and everything. It was so, would you say 70s or 80s in a sense? Well, regardless, it was a very interesting thing to go through, and I just was in awe, in a sense. Like, I enjoyed it, but I just wish there was more. In any case, overall, it's a good game, and I would definitely suggest getting it, and I would also suggest going to play Psychonauts 1, because while it is a game of its time, it is also another look at how people perceive certain aspects and such. So, yeah.
Bruh.
Now, in terms of third place for the meh department, I decided to go with Destroy All Humans, because the one you saw me review is a remaster of the old version that I played on the Xbox when it was out. And that's really it. It's just the same game, just given a little polish, which I can't fault them for. I mean, some games need that, but at the same time, it's kind of like adding a little glitter to something that shouldn't really need it. Like, there's already a bunch of games that could probably have used it better, but I'm not really gonna argue. Then there's the fact that I've also played the sequels and all that. Like, I think I played the Wii game, Destroy All Humans Big Willie or something like that. Which, thinking about it now, it sounds very inappropriate. Again, I'm not gonna fault him for doing the remaster and all that, but it's not really like they added much to it. Sure, they gave me skins and all that, but at the same time, it's like I really didn't find any other reason to keep going, because it's the same game. I even, just doing the first level, I just felt like, oh, this is the same thing, just now polished. So, that's really it. Moving on. Now, the third worst game isn't that it's a bad game, it's just that I had no idea what on earth it was trying to do. Because it's a survival game, it has so many elements from so many games, and the fauna was just confusing. Like, literally. If you don't know, I'm of course talking about Craftopia, of course. And I'm legit saying this because you have the survival crafting stuff, but then you have Pokemon elements, where you have to beat up an animal and then capture it, when it's weak enough. Then you have the glider from Breath of the Wild, so that you can glide around and do stuff. Then you have trials and such, as if you were in Breath of the Wild. I really don't know what they were doing. Like, it's so confusing. And then it's like, at some point, apparently you get the Dune Buggy and all that. I was flabbergasted from watching the preview video of that. But in any case, I will say that it's at least interesting enough to garner a look into. The only other thing I will say is this. I didn't mention it in the review. It's the fact that at the very intro scene, after that explosion I showed you, I could move during the little in-between scene. Like, there's a moment where you're talking to the quote-unquote god that is gonna bring you into the world of Craftopia. But as they were talking, I suddenly noticed I could move. And so I just started going all over the place. Like, I even was able to jump on top of the character because there's apparently an invisible box there. I really don't know why they did that, but they really should have just made it a scene where the characters are just talking. There's no, like, that the character cannot move at all. So, I really don't know what on earth is going on. So, take that for what it's worth. And for number 2 of the best games, we have a game that takes the elements of roguelike games such as Nuclear Throne and the fun parodying of Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons and any other game that has that kind of aspect to it. And that is Atomic Crops. It is a game where you're basically a farmer trying to grow crops for the village and all that, while at the same time trying to survive the wilderness because everything in the realm is freaking mutated at this point. And it's fun, I enjoy it. And as I progress through the game, I discover new things about it, like the fact that there's actually cats in this game! I'm not even kidding! Like, they're not actually in the levels, they're just something you get on your farmstead in the main menu types area, like, after you start the game. But it's so funny that, you know, of all the things, cats are the most normal thing in here. And anyway, then there's also the fact that there's ants that can help you provide bonuses and all that. Like, again, this is all things that I've learned after the initial review. So, there's probably still more to it, and I'm sure there's plenty to try out with this. And with that said, I will definitely be buying it if ever the game actually plans to leave the Xbox Game Pass subscription service availability, as in I will be getting it at probably what is at the time going to be the discounted price rather than buying it at full price at any other place or in general. And that's how good this game is to me right now. With that said, we're going to move on to the next one.
Bruh.
Now, coming in second for the med department is gonna be a game that I only did it in one run, like literally. And there's no reason for me to go back to it, and that is Donut County. I will legit say that while it's a good game and all that, mechanically, graphically, and all that, it only required one playthrough. Like, there wasn't really anything else to offer from it. Like, there was no secret level, there was no bonus stage or anything. You just go through the whole story and that's it. Even if there was a boss level, which was quite interesting in the way it was played. But otherwise, it was the same thing throughout the whole thing. And not that that's a problem, it's just that when you have a linear story and all that, and the story's told within a relatively quick amount of time, and there's not really much to go back worth checking out, it's just like a one-trick pony type of thing. So, as much as I enjoyed it, I can't really say it's the best thing. It's a meh. Now, in terms of second place in the worst category, it's a game that, mechanically and such, it's fine, but there's just issues with the graphics of specific things that bothers me. And that, of course, is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. You probably heard me go into a little more detail about the character in the review, but I'm just gonna reiterate in this one. The main character was like a doll to me. Like, just her movement, her idle stance, everything about it just didn't seem alive in a sense. Like, she was just there for you to dress up and all that, because you could exchange her outfit and accessories and all that to a degree. So it just didn't feel lively enough. Like, I would have honestly preferred if she had a little more emotion to it, because this is supposed to be a human infused with crystals, not a doll infused with crystals, which would have been a better explanation, or like, you know, something along that line. But in any case, otherwise it's fine. It's a Castlevania spiritual successor, which at most times spiritual successors don't really do that great, but it's fine. If you want to play another Castlevania game, you go ahead and do it. For me, it's just the fact that it's freaking playing as a doll is kind of off-putting at me. Like, not that playing as a doll is the problem, it's just the fact that it's supposed to be a person that's behaving like a doll that's really not doing it for me. So, there. I said it. In any case, what could be worse than this? We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we continue on, I'd like to get into the honorable mentions, as I have a few that I would like to put in that couldn't make the list for one reason or another. And with that said, I would also like to mention that all of this is based on opinions. If you actually feel that these games should have been higher or lower, that is based on perspective and all that, for one reason or another. Or if they shouldn't even be on the list at all, that's a whole other matter. But regardless, it's my opinion. You're free to dislike it or like it if you wish, but it's still my opinion at the end of the day. So with that said, in terms of honorable mentions, I would like to start off with Phasmophobia. I enjoyed the game despite the fact that it can scare the hell out of me at times if I played it by myself, but with others it's more of a little jog with a good laugh if other people get spooked out of it. But in any case, the next one would be Man-Eater! The game where you play as a shark trying to get revenge on a fisherman for killing your mom. Which is fine. I just, you know, it got frustrating a bit with the enemies and all that. Although I only died a few times and it wasn't like I couldn't figure out how to do it. Once I got to a certain point, it wasn't that hard. So, yeah. Next, we'll do Monster Train. I actually enjoyed this one for the aspect that it was a card game where you put monsters on 3 different levels to defend your heart from angels that were trying to destroy it. It was very interesting, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And of course, I have to put this one on here because while I would have loved to have put it on the best, I just didn't want to steal the spotlight from games that truly deserved it. That is Genshin Impact, because it's still a growing game. With every update, new stuff is coming out that improves the game, and it's like, I can't really put it on there then, because we haven't even reached the end of the actual story of the game. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with it? It's a great game. I would love to have put it at number 1. But seriously, it's like, that would be too obvious. It would be too simple. I want to give it to a game that I actually feel deserves the spot. And with that said, now, in my opinion, this is the best game of 2021 that I played and reviewed. It is a game that looks nice graphically, looks well for mechanics, and it reignited an interest in a certain kind of game that I used to play when I was younger. And that is Mist Over, a mystery dungeon game that takes place in a realm where a fog has affected the land, making everything hostile and desolate in a sense. You wake up with no memory of who you are. All you know is that there is something that is the source of the fog, and you are to go to it and figure out why on earth it is so. Along the way, you're going to pick up a lot of people so that you can delve into these dungeons, and here's where I'm talking about. Graphic-wise, it looks nice. Mechanically, it is brilliant. It is mystery dungeon type of thing. It has the randomly generated dungeons, characters level up, you can pick up all kinds of stuff, missions can affect how things are on the outside. But then it takes elements from Darkest Dungeon, which is that as your characters level up, they pick up traits and such that can affect how they are in battles and such, or even outside of battles, like as you're exploring a dungeon. And it really works, because you can obviously remove some of the negative stuff, but at the same time, you can make it work to your advantage. Like, say you have a character that does better in the back, and they happen to be a mage type character. That works brilliantly. Now, of course, there's going to be some attacks and all that will pull them forward, but you can always just make them switch around afterwards. it makes the game more interesting in the fact that regardless of what you do for your character, there will always be something that you have to consider when using them in battles and such as if they drain more energy or if they require more time to use said energy. That kind of stuff. It's very interesting. It reignited my interest in those kind of games. So I definitely will say, if you want to check this game out, do so. To the point that is like, I bought this game on the Game Pass because I did not want to lose it after it left the Game Pass subscription service. So yeah, that's really it, because I don't know what else to say about it. We're just gonna move on to the next one. Now, the number one meh game is a game that I did enjoy to a degree, and it looks nice graphically, and mechanic-wise it's fine. It just became really tedious at the end. And that is the game I call Autonauts. Well, not that I call it, it's just the actual name, but regardless, the game is fine. It has a cute style, and mechanic-wise it's fine. The problem is, unless you're really into those kind of things, it can get very tedious very quickly, because here's how it works. You start off building a robot so that you can have it do a job you previously done. And then you have to build a robot to do another job you used to do. And then another. And then another. And then another. And then another. And then you need to build a robot to charge those robots, because those robots run out of power. And then you have to build a robot to build you parts. Then you have to build a robot to freaking build robots. You see where this is going? It gets to a point where everything is becoming a vicious cycle thing. Where, as much as I would love to make it that you can do it autonomously, the problem is, eventually there has to be a single point that you have to get involved. Because eventually, the very last robot that you have that's charging the robot that charges 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 the robots will run out of power. And at that point, you have to get involved. So it gets to a point that it is so tedious. Sure, you can even get it to the point where you have the highest ranked robot. But afterwards, it still ends the same way. You have to build everything up so that you can just charge it, the very last one that's going to charge the rest. And I'm really not wanting to do that kind of thing. So, maybe once or twice, but it's not something I'm going to focus on. So, if you want to check it out, go ahead. And if you really enjoy these kind of games, I definitely would recommend it. But for me, it goes into the meh. Now, the worst game of 2021, funny enough, is the very first game I made a review on. And that is Fallout 76. The reason for it is funny, because I couldn't even play the game. Like, I legit could not get in. Like, I could get into a screen, but could never even get into the main menu so I can start. And this was on Game Pass. This was an issue for me, but I still went with it, because why not? It was the most popular thing. But the thing is, if I can't even get into the game, what can I really say about it? Am I going to say the same thing that everyone else says? That it's a bad game, that it's glitchy as hell? If I can't even go in there, why, how am I to say that? How am I to confirm all this? So it's like, what else was I supposed to do? I simply told you guys what I went through. And that's honestly the basis of this show. I don't research, I don't do anything, I just tell you how I feel about the graphics, the gameplay, and overall how I feel if you should get this game based on my experience. So with that said, this game, although I heard that it has improved immensely, I will not be picking it up again. I will not give it a second chance. It burned me that badly. So I'm sorry to the fans of this game at this point, but this game did not let me play, so I will never pick it up again. And thus we conclude 2021. Now, I am going to say this, as I've said throughout this video, and probably in several other videos, or as a general statement, everything that you have seen, whether it's one of my other review videos or this video in particular, it is all based on opinion, based on my experiences through the videos. So if you feel differently about my words, that's fine. If you feel that there's a game that I missed or that I should review in the future, please leave it in the comments below so that I can look through them, and if any of them actually interest me, they might actually make it into a 2022 review. And with that said, I'm going to thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, share the video with others, subscribe to the channel so you can see more, and I'll see you next time. Bye!